What's the ceiling for a guy like DeAndre Swift and Ryan Mathews today from Pride of Detroit? Let's do this.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And it is Locked On Lions, everybody, on the Locked On Podcast Network on this, Wednesday, June 22nd and a Thursday, June 23rd. Welcome in. Thanks for listening, making us your first listen each and every day. Matt Dery with you on the network, talking Detroit Lions football. Coming up, Ryan Mathews, our buddy from prideofdetroit.com, one of the senior editors there. We'll talk to Ryan about the Lions and what he thinks of the squad as a training camp does approach here. I think I saw something today. Calvin Johnson. There was like a Calvin Johnson video that the Lions made. Who knows what their relationship is with him? But it was 81 days, number 81. They had Calvin highlights, and 81 days until the season starts for the Lions. We'll talk to Ryan coming up momentarily. Also, want to have a DeAndre Swift discussion very quickly before we talk to Ryan. A lot of you sending me this article via Twitter at Dery Speaks or at Locked On Lions in regards to ranking. This is list season. Of DeAndre Swift as a running back, and I think that was a little bit unfair. We'll talk about that as well on the program. Again, thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Twitter at Dery Speaks, at Locked On Lions, Facebook, the Matt Dery fan page, and also we are on YouTube. If you're watching via video, we're on YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Lions, and we'll have videos each and every day of the show as well. All right, Pro Football Network put out an article, put out a ranking of their top running backs in the NFL. And our friends at the Sideline Report, Brad Berriman, kind of poached the list and put an article out about it. And DeAndre Swift, according to PFN, is ranked number 32 as far as running backs in the NFL. And I thought that was a little bit unfair. Now, we know Swift had the injury last year, kept him out of the second half of the season. He played kept him out of the end of the season. He missed 8 games. And so the Lions had to go with the likes of Jamal Williams and Craig Reynolds and such. And even Deuce Staley made a comment a few weeks back, like, hey, look, there's a difference between playing injured and playing hurt. And we need DeAndre out on the field. And from all indications and from everybody I've talked to, he's robust, he's bigger, he's thicker, he looks like he's put on some weight, put on some muscle, and he's ready to have a big season. I'm a DeAndre Swift fan. I'm surprised, too. PFN has him 32nd as far as running backs in this league. You look at the numbers, you look at what he's done, especially out of the backfield, catching the football. Last year, 50 catches for a running back with a couple of touchdowns. I think by the end of this season, we're going to see, especially with the upgrade at the offensive line, especially with a definite upgrade at receiver, a good, deep running back room. I think DeAndre Swift is going to be a top 20 back this year. And I think he's going to be healthy. And go back to his college days. Everyone's like, oh, DeAndre Swift's injury prone. He missed 4 games his first year. Last year, he missed half the season. I get that. But at Georgia, as a freshman, he played in every game, 15 games. Sophomore and junior years, he played in 14 games and was an 1,000-yard runner, even splitting time with other backs like Elijah Holyfield, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. And he was first-team All-SEC, despite being 5'9", 210 pounds, and playing in the best league in college football. Sorry, Big Ten fans. Sorry. So it's not like this was a guy like Kerryon Johnson who blew out his knee in college and slid to the second round. DeAndre Swift took part in a very, very good 2019 draft, or 2020 draft, got picked at the high end of the second round, 35th, and yes, missed some time last year, but I think he's going to be back, and I think he's going to have a big year. So this notion that he's the 32nd best back in the league or he's injury prone, I think he's going to be healthy and have a monster season. Remember those college numbers. And I know college is different than the NFL. I get that. It's a vicious and brutal game, but I think DeAndre Swift can have a big year, and I think PFN is going to end up being wrong. Ryan Mathews coming up next. First, our friends at Built Bar have done it again. Oh my goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. Wait till my buddy Nathan Litke, who I call the executive producer, by the way, RIP to the dog Mooch. Wait till he hears that coconut brownie chunk bars are now going to be coconut brownie chunk puffs as well. Yes, Built's got the marshmallowy puffs going on with coconut brownie chunk. The flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. Built Bar, send me those ASAP. But stop drooling and listen. They're good for you. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for limited time, so go to Built.com right now to make sure you do not miss out. They're going fast because they taste amazing. Delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Just go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15, get yourself a box, and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15. Boy, I'm excited for the coconut brownie chunk puffs. As promised today here on Locked On Lions, good to see this guy and talk to him, the senior editor at prideofdetroit.com, along with Eric and Jeremy and that crew. They do a great job covering the Lions. It's our buddy Ryan Mathews on the show today. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Good to see you, my friend. You got some baby news and stuff. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I am a busy guy. Had a newborn last Wednesday that we welcomed to the world, and mom's healthy, baby's healthy, so it's all good. And we're trying to schedule sleep shifts. That's what we're doing right now.
How's that going so far?
It's going. That's how it's going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so I was just telling you off air, like I was down on a trip this past week. I'm running into Lions fans in other states. I mean, do you remember optimism quite like this over the last, I don't know, handful of years? And do you think it's deserved?
Man, yeah, I think it's hard to kind of reach back into the memory banks and see when the Lions have had this much optimism surrounding them, right, Matt? I mean, just in terms of the local stuff, but like you said, down in Tennessee, I mean, I think even some of the national media is picking up steam with this Lions team, and you're going to see the cup runneth over as soon as the Lions are on HBO and they're all over television screens, coast to coast. So I think that I'm hard pressed to think of a time that the optimism was as high as it was, maybe coming out of the 2014 season, that playoff year against Dallas, and hoping that the Lions could build something on top of that. But I mean, I think it's warranted. To answer your second question, I do think it's warranted. I think that the Lions have taken some really good steps this offseason, and I think that they've really shown a commitment to further advancing this rebuild that, Brad Holmes, kept on calling a retool, but, entering the second season, it seems like there's a lot of reason to be optimistic for Lions fans.
On the field, what excites you the most about this team as you look at the roster right now?
Yeah, it's got to be the offense, right? I mean, I think their offense is set up to be a team that can not go toe to toe with the best offenses in the league, but a team that can hold serve, right? And I think that's where the Lions kind of got into trouble last season was, when they got punched a couple times, and when they got hit a couple times, it was hard to answer back. I guess, to borrow a little bit of Dan Campbellisms from him, but I think that this is a team that if they get down by a couple scores, I don't think that they'll be out of games necessarily. I think that their wherewithal, and I think that their resiliency, something that I think their coaching staff really instilled in them last season. I think a lot of people gave kudos to this team for being so resilient and not giving up in a lot of games. But there were some games that were some blowouts, and there were some games that left bad taste in their mouth, right? Like, I mean, Halloween, Philadelphia,
horrible,
just an absolute blowout. And I'd be hard pressed to think that this offense would let, this offense going into 2022 would let something like that happen again. So I'm really optimistic. I mean, the big question mark though, Matt, right, is when Jamo's going to be back, when Jameson Williams is going to be ready to play, because I think that he unlocks the rest of their offense.
It's interesting because in order for Jameson Williams, obviously, to take the top off, as Brad and Dan have said numerous times, you got to have the quarterback get him the football. And it just seems like, I'm not saying Jared Goff's getting a pass for the start of last season, but it's almost like it's a new Jared Goff now that Anthony Lynn's not there. Are you buying into that?
There's a little bit. I think I'm buying with some optimism, or with some cautious optimism. I guess there were struggles at the beginning of the season, right? I don't think that it's fair to just put that all on Anthony Lynn now that he's out of town and say, that was Anthony Lynn's offense. And as soon as Dan Campbell took over play calling duties and Ben Johnson became more involved in scheming stuff up, that Jared Goff turned a corner, and it's a lot of recency bias, right? Like, I mean, that was what Lions fans were left with. Maybe if they don't win that Packers game at the end of the season, for as meaningless as it was, it certainly did whet the appetite of a lot of Lions fans. And Jared Goff's performance down that stretch over those 6 games was something that we're going to find out in a hurry, though. I think that for the leash that Jared Goff is kind of being given, as you mentioned, Matt, I think that Lions fans, I mean, this town, right? Jared Goff, he's going to have, as much leeway as the points on the scoreboard are gonna give him. So I think Lions fans are going to be quick to maybe change their tune. But it's been a long offseason, and like I said, those last 6 games changed a lot of opinions in Detroit of who Jared Goff is.
You surprised, though, that they have not? I'm not. Look, this has been what this organization has done going back to Matthew Stafford, but there's no competition for him. The backups stink. They didn't draft anybody. It's almost like you said, yeah, the leash is a little bit short, maybe for the end of the season, but this isn't going to be a situation where I highly doubt in October they're going to look up and go, oh, we got to. Baker Mayfield's still out there. We got to go get him. I don't see that happening. Do you?
I don't see that happening either, Matt. And I think this is going to be the biggest test of Brad Holmes' tenure so far as GM, is how much is he committed to Jared Goff? The Matthew Stafford trade was the biggest test for any brand new GM, right? I mean, you step foot in the door, and the first thing you got to do is move on from the best quarterback in the franchise's history and figure out how you're moving forward. And Jared Goff, whether you want to say the first round pick last year or the first round pick in this upcoming season were the most tantalizing parts of the offer, Jared Goff was a very important part of that deal. And Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have been steadfast in their confidence in him. I think, as you mentioned, the backup quarterback position, if you get caught up in that, there really isn't any there isn't any backup plan, right? There's no backup plan here, Matt, and there aren't a lot of backup plans in other cities too with their teams. But Jared Goff is just a guy who, like I said, this is going to be Brad Holmes' biggest test. Is come October, come the beginning of November, if the Lions haven't started putting up wins, is there going to be a contingency plan moving forward? Are the Lions going to have their hands forced, and are they going to have to move on? And I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but that seems to be the missing ingredient, right? Like the quarterback. You talk about the offensive line; it's projected to be like one of the best units in the NFL. You look at the wide receiving core: Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark. Drafting, as I mentioned, Jameson Williams. You have TJ Hawkinson. You got a stable of running backs that seem like they can get the job done. The weak link seems to be that quarterback, and Jared Goff has. I mean, could you think of a better opportunity for a quarterback to prove that they belong in this league than with the rest of this offense?
No, not right now. And I think you're exactly right. Everything has been put into place for him to succeed. Ryan Mathews is with us from prideofdetroit.com. You guys had on your site the last couple of days. I was checking it out, and I'm always there and always try to pump you guys up as much as I can.
And we
appreciate discussion about DeAndre Swift and the Pro Bowl and just, what his ceiling is. And I know what Deuce Staley has said about DeAndre Swift. Can he stay healthy and be a dominant back, do you think?
I mean, that's just a tough, tall ask for any running back in this league, right, Matt? It seems that running backs are almost a dime a dozen. And there's a few guys, there's a handful of guys in the league. You point at your Derrick Henrys, you point at maybe your Alvin Kamara's, but I mean, even those guys have shown that they're kind of worse for wear. And, Christian McCaffrey, guys making it to a second contract in this current format with the way that the NFL is these days, it's tough. And I thought Deuce Staley's comments were spot on. I mean, I didn't think that he was being too harsh. I didn't think that it was an unfair criticism. There's a difference between playing hurt and playing injured, and I think it's well warranted. And for DeAndre Swift, I understand, you want to stay healthy enough to earn that second contract and try to get paid somewhere, whether it's here in Detroit or somewhere else. But you have to be out on the field, and you have to prove what you can do. And there are plenty of guys, as we saw last year, right, Matt? I mean, we saw Craig Reynolds step in and have a little flash. We saw Jamal Williams have a little bit of success behind this offensive line. That's somebody who I'm really expecting to take a bigger leap this year is Jamal Williams. I thought that he had a less than good season. I think a lot of people had very high expectations for him, myself included. I think that he's the guy to watch for in this upcoming season. And DeAndre Swift is no slouch, but I think that it's that tandem, and I think it's going to be the true RBCC, right? I mean, running back by committee.
That's the hope, and certainly Jamar Jefferson is another guy that I think they like a lot as well. Ryan Mathews is with us. Let's talk about the defense a little bit, and also the coaching and how much better this staff might be able to be and getting the most out of these guys. We'll do that coming up next. First, though, want to tell you about our friends at Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to give you what you want and stock all the parts that you need. That's why you need to go to rockauto.com, folks. It's right there on your computer, on your phone. It's simple, easy. Order stuff and get it to you delivered right to your door. Save time, save money when you use Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Don't do it. Go to rockauto.com. Family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. And the best thing about it, Rock Auto's prices are reliably low for everybody. And they get everything you need. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go to the website now, rockauto.com. See all the parts available for your car, truck, and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Ryan Mathews from Pride of Detroit is with us. I saw something yesterday. I mentioned it on the show. Our friends at Bet Online, Dan Campbell had the sixth best odds to either get fired or resign. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. Some of the usual suspects were up there, and I think people expect Mike McCarthy to be in trouble. Heck, even Pete Carroll. Matt Rule was first, but Campbell was like 10-1. He's not going anywhere, Ryan. I mean, didn't you find that to be a little bit crazy?
I found that to be a bit of a head scratcher. I saw another name on there that I thought was interesting too, is Mike Vrabel, which, a lot of Lions fans were kind of scorned lovers over not getting a chance to have him, take over instead of Matt Patricia. But it's a conversation for another day. But yeah, Dan Campbell at 10-1 seemed strange. It certainly seemed like that was the guy that didn't belong. And I don't know how much that was me being, close to the situation here in Detroit, understanding that ownership, Sheila Ford Hamp is somebody who seems to have a lot of confidence and has put like her full faith behind this rebuild and this new regime. So yeah, Dan Campbell's not going anywhere anytime soon.
And as far as the job that he's going to do or has done, I mean, obviously it's an incomplete. And last year they only won 3 games. I thought the schedule was brutal. I thought the roster was brutal. His decision-making in the first half of the season, I thought there were some head-scratching moments, but the fact that all of these guys, even fringy guys that I'm not thrilled that they signed, all wanted to come back. Everybody swears by him. The entire coaching staff's still here. I think that says something about the job that he's doing so far. Now, I guess, Ryan, right, we're going to find out as far as an X's and O's how much he can coach. Do you kind of feel the same way?
I do feel the same way. And, there's been a lot of – I think that's been the final piece of the puzzle, though, Matt, right? I think a lot of people have been the one question that has been on everybody's mind is, are you still calling plays, or are you going to hand that over to Ben Johnson? Is he going to be in charge of that? And, with Dan Campbell kind of keeping that close to the chest and waiting to make a decision on that, I think that he probably went back and forth on taking away those play calling duties from Anthony Lynn last season for too long. And there were a lot of things that Dan Campbell, those bumps and bruises he went through in his first season as head coach. The thing I'm most interested to see, though, in year two is he going to be as aggressive as he was last season? Is he going to throw the kitchen sink in everybody? Is he going to be this guy who's going for it on fourth down a bunch? Or was that a guy who, as you mentioned, Matt, it was a 3-win team that didn't have a whole lot of talent on its roster. So are you just, scratch and claw and doing anything you can to win some games by any means necessary? Is he going to be that aggressive in season two? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope that this guy is willing to is willing to be that aggressive in his second year. But, as you mentioned, I think one of the biggest proponents of why Dan Campbell has been so successful is that coaching staff. Aaron Glenn is still here, and Aubrey Pleasant is still around, and Antoine Randall L is here, and he seems to be super excited, right, that Jameson Williams is in town. It's a very interesting experiment that's going on in Detroit, and it hasn't really happened anywhere else, right? With all these, rather recent former players now being coaches, and I really hope it works, man. I really do.
Well, given the franchise's history, it hasn't.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm with you about that. All right, defensively, you mentioned Glenn, you mentioned Pleasant. Who sticks out for you? Who are you excited to see come training camp and maybe make a push here?
Yeah, it's got to be the defensive back group that I think I'm the most intrigued, especially in training camp. From all indications, it seems like Jeff Okudah, the only thing that Dan Campbell seems to be concerned about is the mental aspect of coming back from an Achilles injury. It seems like all systems go with where he is in terms of his physical well-being. But you have him, you have Amani Orawarier, who I think had a really good season last year for somebody who was almost kind of out on an island by himself.
Oh yeah.
He's playing with guys like undrafted free agents like AJ Parker, man in the slot, and Jerry Jacobs, who seems like he's pretty close to coming back even from his own, knee injury that he suffered last season. So there's a lot of interesting pieces at cornerback, and then at safety too. And I meant to mention this earlier, but talking about Dan Campbell, Deshaun Elliott, who the Lions added, the safety from Baltimore. I think it's, it speaks to what Dan Campbell has been able to do here. And he said, if it wasn't for the culture and the way that, this team is set up and the people that are in the places that they are, Deshaun Elliott wasn't sure if, he'd want to be here. But that was something that really attracted him to coming to Detroit. And, you give Tracy Walker that money. This is kind of like put up or shut up time, right? For Tracy Walker. I think, there was the interesting, the Lions have been really great in terms of the stuff that they've been showing us from behind the scenes, but that exchange between him and Dan Campbell, where Dan Campbell's is like, hey, this is your team, man. Like you're one of those guys. You're one of those pieces that we're going to count on and to be like foundational. And, I think that there's a lot of intrigue there with the defensive back group.
Ryan Mathews with us from Pride of Detroit. What about Aiden Hutchinson? How many sacks do you forecast for his rookie year, do you think?
Oh man, my crystal ball might be a little shoddy, but it's all about the pressures, right? It's all about how much pressure you're putting on a quarterback in today's NFL, and that's the one thing I'm worried, right? Is a lot of people get wrapped up in the sack numbers. You were here, you were on radio when Ndamukong Suh had a breakout season as a rookie. I think he put up 10 sacks his rookie season, and for an interior defensive lineman, those are pretty good numbers. But when those numbers kind of started to dwindle in years after that, it was, is he overrated? I'm really hoping that he gets home to the quarterback and gets some of those numbers, so a lot of the pressure is taken off him. But I think the Romeo Okwara question mark is a big one that looms large, because that was one of Brad Holmes' first decisions that he had to make. It was a Matthew Stafford trade, and then it was, are you moving on from Kenny Golladay? And that seems to be like he struck aces on that one, right? Yeah. But now it's the Romeo Okwara injury, and for as good as Jeff Okudah looks, we haven't heard a whole lot about Romeo and where he is in his rehabilitation. So I think you're hopeful that maybe you can get another, plus season out of Charles Harris, especially, signing him to a little bit of a expensive contract, more expensive than he was last season, obviously. But, one guy can't do it by himself. That's for sure. And it's going to take that whole front line. So there's a lot of question marks I have, though, about that interior, Matt.
Nice Sue reference you made. I said on the show yesterday, I'd love to see them bring him back. And I know people are like, oh, you're crazy. Well, Penasini retired, and Dominican would probably agree to a 1-year deal at this stage. The Lions Brad Holmes has been Mr. 1-year deal. Why not bring Sue back? It'd be entertaining, but he can still play.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he can still play. I mean, yeah, line him up. What sure things are there along the interior defensive line? That's my question, right? I mean, Michael Brocker seems like he's kind of, he's been around for a while, and he's, banged up, and you got Levi Onwuzurike, who back injuries are something that I'm never interested in figuring out whether or not that guy's going to be healthy or not, because who knows, those things linger and linger and linger. And, you mentioned Penasini retiring, and you got Josh Pascal with his lower extremity injury. That a lot of these things are kind of adding up, and, bringing back Sue on a 1-year deal. If he was interested in coming back to Detroit, I think that would be something that Brad Holmes seems like he'd be a culture fit, right, Matt? He seemed like a Dan Campbell guy.
I don't know. He's on Twitter talking about Bitcoin and all that stuff. And he seems to be. It's funny. We were all like, stay away from Kayvon because he doesn't care about football. And then every tweet of Sue's now is about finance. And so I don't know, but I still think I've always been a Sue fan. I think the Lions made a mistake in kind of lowballing him a little bit many years ago. We're doing 2014 revisionist history, but
we are.
I don't know. I would bring him back in a second. Ryan, great to see you. Thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Anytime.
You got it. There he is, Ryan Mathews with us from Pride of Detroit. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan_POD. And check out his stuff at prideofdetroit.com. That is a Wednesday edition, everybody, of Locked On Lions. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are back again tomorrow.